Digital parrhesia and the Clinton Foundation website. Parrhesia, or the ability to speak freely, implies three public duties for speakers: to speak the truth, to sincerely believe that truth, and to honestly represent themselves when speaking. Astroturfing, which conceals identities in order to reduce the risk of speaking the truth to power, or to the public, always fails in this latter duty. In parrhesia, the speaker uses his freedom and chooses frankness instead of persuasion, truth instead of falsehood or silence, the risk of death instead of life and security, criticism instead of flattery, and moral duty instead of self-interest and apathy. The speaker must always balance the inherent risks associated with the rhetorical act with the desire to represent him or herself completely and fully. You will see a sequence of deliberation, an organization that has matched its spatial and digital presence with its public presence, idealized its goals while showcasing their practical actualization. You can see it in the eyes of the faces here, and hear it in the voices of the major players.
And it really all starts with the desire to make a difference.
When it comes to gender equality, we're just not there yet.
If this room reflected America, that half of us would be struggling with a chronic disease.
The implications of climate change for Kenya are real.
To try to take 100 million people out of poverty over the next 10 years. Nobody knows if we can do it, but we're about to find out.
When you take small and medium enterprises, have them partner up with small local microfinance suppliers, and you add the foundation, it's truly a recipe for success.
We have managed to teach farmers the way they can utilize their productivity.
We try to be ever more modern, embrace new technologies and new solutions.
A sleep is getting all nutrient data and pushing it up into one big model farmers can access.
Wanted to be here today for this day of action because it's part of our future together.
We live in a planet and increasingly in a universe that is interdependent. We are the great cooperators.
Next year we have to go further.
I set up this foundation knowing that it's one of the great good news stories of the latter 5 years of the 20th century and to today is the growth, the explosion of the non-governmental organization. The Indians have incorporated about 1 million of them, and over 500,000 are quite active still. We have more than 1 million in America, half of them established since 1995. And I started really at Hillary's urging when I was president, meeting with NGO leaders when I went to foreign countries, because she had been involved in non-governmental organizations from the time we were in law school together. And I noticed that sometimes it gave the government's heartburn that I was meeting with these NGOs. But historically, NGOs have tried to do 2 or 3 things. One is, if you look at the traditional operation in America, to step into the gaps in society between what the private sector can produce and the government can provide. First NGO in America was established before we became a country. It was the volunteer fire department Benjamin Franklin put together in Philadelphia, because you couldn't make a living running a fire department because half the houses were wooden, and by the time you got there it was gone. The guy didn't have any money to pay you, and there was not a sufficient tax base to build a professional fire department. Hillary and I live in a 115-year-old farmhouse in Chappaqua, New York, still protected by a volunteer fire department. Thank God it's only a mile away from the house, so we got a fighting chance. In the latter half of probably the last 20 to 25 years of the last century, NGOs also became the repository of people who believed in expanding freedom of expression and reducing arbitrary government power, advocating for human rights, and other manifestations of it.
This article in the Atlantic Monthly depicts the Clinton Foundation's efforts to save the world. Indeed, this organization's efforts are nothing short of miraculous. In conclusion, Michel Foucault mentions in his book Fearless Speech that the true parasitic text must be conceptualized and characterized by what's known as basanos, which refers to the touchstone. The Greek word basanos is literally a black stone which is used to test the genuineness of gold. Similarly, in the digital domain, as Gilowitz and Allard Hoover point out, the touchstone is equivalent to the polyvocal nature of online information distribution. When the medium of information involves the opportunity for viewer involvement and commentary, the organization opens up and the public becomes a stakeholder. Consider the following images of the Clinton Foundation website as an example. Its multi-platform presence on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter provide folks with that crucial opportunity to make a difference.